The husband sent a box to his cheating wife and her lover during the act, which caused them to panic. I'm sorry, Mr. Walker. I'm not good at sharing bad news. John Michaels gave me an envelope with a detailed account of what my wife had been doing with her ex-boss, Grant Jacobs. There were also a bunch of photos and a DVD in the envelope. I looked at the photos, but haven't watched the DVD yet. I was nervous, but I knew I had to deal with what John had found. Do you have any idea how long this has been going on? I asked. John referred to his initial report to give me an answer. Based on the evidence we found, it's been at least 10 years. John said it could be as long as 12 years. It looks like it started around the time your wife was up for the top position. That was about a year after our daughter Sophie was born. I realized that I needed to get DNA tests to verify that the children were biologically mine. Then I had another concern. What about the risk of sexually transmitted diseases? I found out that Grant had been involved with many married women besides Linda. Because Linda and I had been together after she stopped working, I wondered if she might have passed on diseases to me over the years. It was clear that I needed to get medical tests done quickly. Looking over the report again, I couldn't help but laugh at John's comment that Linda seemed unaware of what her lover was doing when he wasn't with her. Mr. Walker, Grant said he never intended to break up your marriage. John told me. And they never did anything to you?
This is your story channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please join us to stay updated with more real stories happening around you.
And they never did anything to you? I had John install cameras and microphones in our house when I hired him. At least our bedroom was free of Grant's presence. I replied, "Thank you for telling me, Mr. Michaels." I had met Grant Jacobs a few times and didn't like him very much. He was handsome, sure, but he was also rude and had a smile that I didn't like. I had to stop myself from wiping that grin off his face more than once. Now I understood why he acted so smug. There's more, Mr. Walker. John continued, from what we have seen and heard, Grant's sister, Natalie, has known about their affair from the beginning. It seems she may have even helped them. I felt a little sad about this. I had always thought Natalie was a good person, very different from her brother. Have you talked to a lawyer yet? Not yet, I replied. I wanted to get the facts straight first. I do a lot of work for Lisa Hawkins. She's really good at dealing with cheaters. If you're interested, I can send this to her office and let her know you're coming by. John offered to do that. That would be great. I thanked him. I'll contact her office to set up a meeting. John gave me his business card, and I put it in my pocket. Mine? He asked. If I give you some advice, John asked. Sure, I nodded. Let Lisa handle this. I know you're hurting right now and you might feel like lashing out, but don't. It's not worth getting into trouble. This isn't some made-up story. It's real life. You have 2 kids to think about, he said. I understand. Thank you. I said I had paid my bill and left his office feeling like my entire marriage had been a sham. I knew John was right, but it still hurt a lot. I sat in my car and cried for about 15 minutes. When I calmed down, I took out the business card he had given me and called Lisa Hawkins' office to make an appointment for the next day. Lisa gave me a checklist of documents to bring, mostly financial statements. On the way home, I stopped at a convenience store and bought a pack of cigarettes, something I hadn't done since college. Then I went to a bar and tried to drown my sorrows in a beer. I don't usually drink, but I figured I deserved it just this once. You okay, buddy? The bartender asked as I took a drag from my cigarette. I looked up at him before answering. Can you tell? I replied, unfortunately, he said with a small smile. Let me guess. You just found out that your wife has been unfaithful to you. That's right, I nodded. For 12 years. Can you believe it? I can, he replied. I've seen and heard it all since I started working here. No doubt. I agreed. He laughed softly. He then said, Mind if I tell you something my grandfather used to say? He asked. Go ahead. I encouraged him. He said I felt bad because I didn't have shoes. Then I met a guy without feet. I know you're hurting right now because I've been there. But it gets better. And believe me, there are people out there who've had it a lot worse than you. Your grandfather sounds like a wise man, I remarked. The bartender agreed. Finish your beer and go home. Son, go about your business. Do what needs to be done. You won't find any answers at the bottom of that glass, trust me. I smiled and nodded in agreement. Deep down, I knew that the bartender was right. As I drank my beer, I thought. I never thought Linda would cheat on me. There had been some small signs over the years, but none of them were very clear. But when I put it all together, it made sense. For example, after our second child, Sophie, was born, I noticed that Linda was dating again, which seemed strange to me. I asked her about it. Why would she do that when I'd already taken care of things? She told me that she was extra careful and that the pills regulated her period. I didn't know much about the subject, so I believed her. Then, when she got the job and started traveling with Grant, I noticed that her clothes weren't exactly businesslike. She hinted that entertaining might be a big part of her new role. When I asked her about it, she told me that she was entertaining Grant. It seemed to be an important part of her new job. I often called her in the evenings when she was out. I thought it was strange that she was always in her room when I called her, but there were times when I thought I heard a man's voice nearby. Sometimes I heard Linda's voice break when she spoke. I couldn't explain it, but if Grant was touching her or being close to her while she was talking to me on the phone, it would make sense. There were times when I noticed the faint scent of Grant's aftershave on Linda's clothes when she came home. I recognized the scent because I smelled it on him every time we met. It made me feel sick. I could only imagine it happening when she was in close contact with him. Then there were the Friday afternoons when she supposedly worked after she retired. They kept me on for one afternoon a week because they still needed my special skills, though I may have to travel sometimes, she explained when I asked. It's just business, she added. Now I realized that her special skills included more intimate activities. And it was more than just business. To make matters worse, her one afternoon a week turned into 2 or even 3, and she often didn't get home until 9 or 10 p.m. Her occasional trips went from once a month to 2 or 3, often spanning the entire weekend. So much for retirement. All of this happened in the last 4 months. Linda's behavior toward me hadn't changed at all. She was still kind and loving like she was when we were first married. She seemed to enjoy spending time at home with the kids and me, which was a welcome relief since I had taken on most of the childcare duties because of her busy schedule. I've been wondering about this for a while, so I decided to hire John's investigative firm to find out what Linda was up to. And now my worst suspicions have been confirmed. Now, I need to figure out how to divide it all up. If it had been a one-time mistake made under the influence, I might have been able to forgive and move on. I would have been angry, but it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But this was a deliberate, ongoing betrayal that had gone on for over a decade. Now it's time for someone to be held responsible. I put out my cigarette, finished my beer, and left, saying hi to the bartender and giving him a good tip for his time. When I got home, I saw Linda's car in the garage. I was surprised to see it there. I closed the garage door, went inside, took off my jacket, and walked to my home office. When I got there, Linda caught me on the way and immediately noticed the smell of cigarettes and beer. "You've been smoking," she said. Her eyebrows furrowed, and I smelled beer. "Is everything okay, John?" "No, to be honest, it's not. Today has been one of the worst days of my life," I replied. "What happened? Did something bad happen?" she asked, seeming worried, but I wondered if she was really concerned. I replied, "I'm going to spend the evening in my office. I don't think I'll be good company tonight. Is there anything I can do, honey?" she asked. I thought, yes, I can undo what I've done. Unfortunately, there was nothing I could do. I told her, "John, I'm leaving this weekend, starting on Friday." She mentioned that it was only Tuesday, and she's already telling me that she's going away for another weekend. I told her that I had just left for a weekend myself. I asked, "Yes, but something came up." She explained that it's just business. "I see." I replied sarcastically, "What about Sophie's birthday party? It's this Saturday." I know she admitted it, but I can't avoid it. "Could you please explain to her why I won't be there?" I told her firmly, "I'm not covering for you anymore. You missed Erin's birthday and our anniversary last year. You can explain to our daughter why you'd rather go on a trip with Grant than celebrate her birthday here." Linda didn't like my answer and sighed heavily before speaking. John, please, you're being unreasonable, she protested. No, I said. You supposedly retired months ago after your company was sold, but you've been away so much that I can't help but wonder what's really going on. Is there anything you want to tell me? What are you implying? Are you saying I'm having an affair? She replied defensively. How would you feel if the roles were reversed? I replied. She seemed to relax a bit after that. I see your point. She agreed. But believe me, it's just business. You keep saying that. I replied. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. Please don't interrupt me. You'll have to take care of the kids tonight. I went back to my home office, closed and locked the door. I heard Linda trying to open the door. John, please talk to me, she said. Leave me alone, Linda. I gritted my teeth. I'm busy. I heard her walk away, and I started gathering the information Lisa had requested. Then I looked at the evidence John had given me. As I read the report, it was hard to believe that this was the woman I had loved and supported for the past 12 years. I put on my headphones and started the DVD. I couldn't understand the mix of emotions I was feeling. I had loved this woman for 12 years, and now I saw her willingly giving herself to someone else. I didn't care how John got the videos. All I knew was that any love I once had for Linda was now gone. As I watched her on the screen with Grant, I swore I would never touch her again. I listened to their conversation. Are we still on for this weekend? Grant asked, holding her in his arms. Of course, Linda replied with a smile. You know, I can't go too long without you inside me. What about your daughter's birthday party? Isn't that this weekend? Yes, but John will take care of it, she said. He's better with kids than I am. Besides, if I have to choose between dealing with a bunch of Brady girls or being here with you, I'd rather be with you. I like having you here, Linda, but I'm afraid he might get suspicious. Grant said that you're supposed to be retired. She replied, remember I told you, Grant, retired or not, I'm not giving up our thing. She caressed him and said, I love my family and John, but what we've shared these last 12 years means everything to me. I'm glad to hear that Grant has responded. Remember when we started this, you said you'd choose John and your children if you had to. Do you still feel that way? I honestly don't know. She admitted it's never come up. I don't know how you've kept him in the dark all this time, Grant mused. If he ever finds out, it won't be good. It wasn't easy at first, but I've learned to keep my business life separate from my personal life, she explained. I've never lied to him, and I treat him well. If he finds out, I'll threaten him with divorce. It may not be that easy, Grant warned. But if things go wrong, you can stay here if you want. I like having you around. Thank you, Grant. I'm grateful for that. But I don't think anything will happen. It's been 12 years, and he still hasn't caught on, so I doubt he ever will. How long are you going to keep this up? He asked. As long as I can, maybe for the rest of my life, she explained. I thought to myself, maybe you'll get your wish. As I closed the video and put the DVD back in my briefcase, I heard Linda knocking on the office door. I replied, the kids are going to bed, she informed me. Can you at least come out and say goodnight to them? Just a second, I replied. I shut down my computer, went upstairs, and tucked the kids in, trying to smile. Sophie looked at me strangely. Are you okay, Dad? She asked. Yeah, I said with a smile. I'm fine. Go to sleep now, sweetheart. I love you too, she said, kissing me. After she left her room, I went downstairs and grabbed a cup of coffee. I kept some food warm for you, John. Linda said I wasn't hungry, so I replied that I wasn't either. I went out back and sat in a lounge chair on the patio and lit a cigarette. A few minutes later, Linda joined me. She tried to kiss me, but I turned my head, so she kissed me on the cheek. I wasn't going to kiss the lips that had been on Grand Jacob's tool. She looked at me in surprise. John, please tell me what you're thinking, she said. You seem very troubled, she said, looking concerned. This isn't like you at all. She also said that she didn't like seeing me smoke. You quit in college. Life doesn't always go as planned, does it? She said, her tone sympathetic. I replied, what do you mean? She asked. I shook my head and didn't say anything. John, please tell me everything. I love you. You can tell me anything, she begged. I looked at her through the smoke and shook my head. It's too late for that now, I admitted. Too late for what? I don't understand, she said. You're good at business, I said. You'll figure it out. Now please give me some space, or I need to sort things out, she pleaded. But maybe I can help if you let me in. Linda, please respect my space, I said. My frustration was obvious. I softened my tone a bit, realizing that I might be revealing too much. I apologized for losing my temper. Work has been tough lately, and it's really taking a toll on me. Maybe I'll be better in a few days. I felt bad lying to her, but I figured, why not? It's fair to lie to a liar, right? She replied quietly, tears streaming down her face. She then hurried inside, sobbing. I smoked 2 more cigarettes before going inside. I took a shower to wash away the smell of smoke, put on some pajamas I rarely wore, and got into bed. Linda lay on her side and reached for me under the covers. I pushed her hand away, refusing her advances for the first time in our marriage. John, she began. I turned away and refused to kiss her goodnight. Good night, Linda, I said. She turned away, crying. I didn't care at that moment. As far as I was concerned, she could go to hell. The next morning, I got up, took a shower, got dressed, and packed my things for work. I spent some time with the kids before they left for school, then left the house without saying anything to Linda. She gave me a strange look as I walked out the door. She asked, "Don't I get a kiss goodbye anymore?" as I opened the door. "Sorry," I replied and blew her a kiss. "I love you." "I love you too," she said. I mumbled, "Yeah, you too," as I walked out. At the office, I tried to focus on my work, but it was hard. I told my boss about the situation, and he sympathized because he had gone through a divorce himself. He said, "Do what you have to do." He said, "If you need time off, just let me know." I thanked him and left for my meeting with Lisa. "Good afternoon, Mr. Walker." She greeted me as I walked into her office. Lisa Hawkins appeared to be about my age with long blonde hair. I noticed the rings on her fingers and assumed she was married. "Please call me John," I said as I shook her hand. "And you can call me Lisa. I've reviewed the report Mr. Michael sent over. I'm sorry you have to go through this. It's a common problem I deal with, but it's always upsetting. How are you doing?" "I'm not doing too well, to be honest." I understood, I replied. She sympathized. "Have you talked to her about it?" I hadn't, but I wasn't very nice to her last night. I told her what happened. "I suggest you try to keep things civil for now. I know it's hard, given what you know, but it's best not to let on that you know. Let her act like she normally does. She'll find out when she gets the divorce papers. Do you think you can handle that?" "You're right. It's going to be hard, really hard," I admitted. "But I'll try my best." "Good." Lisa nodded. "What are your goals for this divorce?" "I want to get as much as I can. I want to get custody of the kids, if they're mine. You know that mothers usually get custody, right?" She pointed out that I've been their primary caregiver for the last 10 years. I said that I've been the child's primary caregiver for the last 10 years. She admitted on the video that I'm a better parent than her choice to be with her lover instead of her daughter on her birthday should count for something. It does. And we can use it. Lisa agreed. She looked at the financial documents I gave her and wrote down some notes. "It looks like your wife made a lot of money when she sold the company. The monthly dividend she's receiving is equal to your salary. This is good for us." I asked if that meant no spousal support or very little. Lisa confirmed that she is young and able to work. "If we get custody for you, we may be able to get child support from her." "What about the house?" I asked if we could get custody of the house and if we could ask her to pay half of the mortgage. However, there's a chance the court could give her custody. In that case, you'd have to pay half the mortgage, along with child support. She explained that the only other option would be to sell the house and split the money between the two of you. I asked about our retirement and bank accounts. "We can simplify things by leaving the retirement accounts out of the equation. You both keep your 401k and everything else will be divided equally, which is usually what a judge would order." She clarified. "What about Grant Jacobs? Can I sue him for alienation of affection?" "Not in this state," she replied, but we will include him in the divorce proceedings. There may be grounds to sue him for causing you emotional distress, but it's unlikely to go far, especially in the state. I also asked about his sister Natalie. She knew about the situation and may have even helped make it happen. I added that it's a similar situation with her. We can file if you want. Lisa replied, yes, please continue. When can you file all this? I asked. I think we can have it done by Friday. She said she'd like to be served late Saturday afternoon. She's going away with Grant for the weekend. I explained. I understand a little shock and awe. We can arrange that, she acknowledged, but there will be an additional cost for the process server to work on Saturday. That's fine. Let's get started. I agreed. Okay, John, she said. We ended the meeting with a handshake, and after giving me the usual warning not to do anything rash, she accepted my retainer check. I left her office feeling more confident. When I got home, I noticed Linda's car in the garage, which surprised me since it was Wednesday. I thought she was at work, feeling the warmth of the hood. It looked like she had driven it recently. When I opened the car door, I smelled pot roast. Hey, honey, she said. Linda greeted me from the kitchen. I said, back early. Everything okay? Yes, I replied. I hope you're feeling better than yesterday. She said, a little. I'm handling things, I told her. Good. Are you hungry for dinner? She asked. I made pot roast, your favorite. I'll have some. I accepted. It smelled delicious. Did you go to the office? Yes, I was there for a few hours, she replied. She was preparing for the weekend. Did you talk to Sophie? I asked. She said that Sophie isn't happy, but she'll be fine. I asked Linda where the kids were. They're in their rooms doing homework, she said. Are you still planning this trip with Grant? I asked. Yes, it's business, she said firmly. Just business. When do you plan to retire for real? I asked. I'm retired now, just need a while, she clarified. I'm not sure how long. It seems like you're almost working full-time already. I replied, I guess you'll have to. She asked what I meant. I said that since you're giving them so much time, you might as well be on the payroll. I explained why I'm making more now. She defended herself. I put my briefcase away and got dressed. I told her that I was impressed with her cooking and reminded her of the skills I'd miss if we were no longer working together. After spending time with the kids, I locked myself in my office. Linda tried to come in, but then knocked when she realized the door was locked. I opened the door and saw her face. John, she asked, are you sleeping here tonight? I think so, I replied. I've got a lot to go through, and I'm feeling a little under the weather. I don't want to risk making you sick right before your trip, so I'll sleep on the futon in here. Oh, all right, she said. Take care, John, please. I love you too. Yeah, you too. I replied, closing the door as she left, and got on my computer to start searching. After finding what I needed, I filled out a form and checked my email for confirmation. I wrote down the phone number and set a reminder on my phone to call the next day and confirm everything. Thursday was pretty much like Wednesday, except Linda tried to lure me into bed with a sheer nightgown that left nothing to the imagination. I didn't feel attracted to her because I knew what she was doing with Grant. Sorry, Linda. I said to her, I have a bad migraine. I'm going to take something and crash here in the office. She walked away, and a tear rolled down her cheek, but I didn't care. The next day at noon, she called to say she was off. I hope you're feeling better, John. She said maybe we'll talk again when I get back on Monday. The parents are picking up the kids today and dropping them off tomorrow for Sophie's party. Thanks for the heads up. I replied, I love you, John. She replied, I hope you believe that. I said, yes, have a safe trip. See you later. Goodbye, Linda. After I hung up, I called Lisa. The paperwork is being filed now, John. She said they'll be delivered to Grant's tomorrow at 5:30, just like you wanted. Natalie will get hers on Monday. Thank you, Lisa. I ended the call, told my assistant I was done for the day, locked up, and headed home. There was a lot to do before the movers arrived that afternoon. I had a stack of boxes in the garage ready for the day's work. At 5 in the afternoon, the movers showed up with their truck just as I had finished packing. While they were loading, I altered Linda's wedding dress. When I was finished, I put the ashes in a paper bag. I sealed the bag with a note, my wedding ring, and our torn marriage certificate in an envelope. Then I handed it to one of the movers. I asked them to deliver it to Linda at Grant's house at 5:30 the next day, along with two $50 bills as a tip. I asked the mover to make sure it got to Linda. The young man promised he would. Thank you, I replied. Later, I heated up some leftover pot roast and ate it in the living room while watching TV. I slept well that night in the master bed. At noon the next day, Linda's parents arrived with the children. I had been up early getting ready for Sophie's birthday party in the backyard, which was set to start around 3 p.m. Linda had ordered a cake, which I had picked up earlier and kept in the refrigerator. You've been busy, Linda's mother said as she came in. I didn't have much choice, I replied. I hope everything goes well. The kids will love it, she said. Sophie mentioned that Linda wasn't there. Yes, she was. Linda's mother confirmed. I can't believe she would miss her own daughter's birthday. She paused and looked at me intently. Is everything okay between you two? No, it's not, I admitted. I hate to tell you this, but you'll find out soon enough. I'm divorcing Linda. Her father exclaimed, What? Why? I found out she's been having an affair with her boss for the last 12 years. I even found out that's where she is right now. Oh my God. Her mother gasped. Are you sure about this? I've had my suspicions for a while, especially after Linda's so-called retirement. I explained about a month ago that I had hired an investigator to dig deeper. I have a detailed report, photos, and even video evidence if you're curious. No need for that. She refused. And you're sure you can't forgive her? Absolutely not. I never said that. I'd like to see the report. George joined in, saying, I can't believe she would do something so stupid. Well, you take care of it. I'll get ready for Sophie's party, Rhonda offered. After thanking Rhonda, I motioned for George to join me in my home office and handed him the written report. He looked shocked and couldn't believe it. That foolish woman, he muttered as he handed the report back. I'm sorry, John. She's my daughter. But that's hard to believe. Now you understand my position. I felt sorry for him. What's the plan with this Grant guy? He asked. I've taken legal action against him and his sister for causing emotional distress. I told him. He scoffed. That's it, he replied. After 12 years of stealing your wife, he gets off easy. You know how far this lawsuit will go. I understand, George. I acknowledged it. But I have to think about my kids going to jail, and that's not going to help anybody. I guess you're right. He admitted it. Based on this report, it seems that Grant has a thing for married women. I bet Linda's not his first target. Probably not. I agreed. Let me handle this guy. George said he's not worth going to jail for. He's not worth it. I agreed. Here's an idea, John. George said, let me handle this jerk. I won't let you go to jail for him. I promise. No need to worry, son. George reassured me. No one will go to jail. George was a strong man used to physical labor. I had met some of his co-workers, equally imposing figures who looked out for each other. What's your plan? I asked. George replied with a wink and a grin, the less you know, the better. I agreed. He smiled and gave me a friendly pat on the shoulder. Come on, John, let's go spend some time with the kids, he suggested. We walked outside and saw Rhonda getting everything ready for Sophie's party. When Sophie came down, her eyes lit up at the sight. Thanks, Daddy, she said, hugging me. This is so great. I wish Mom could see this. Me too, I agreed. But we'll take lots of pictures for her, okay? She agreed. I lit the grill and cooked burgers and hot dogs for everyone. At about 4:30, the doorbell rang, signaling the start of the fun. Over the next half hour, Sophie's friends arrived with their parents. Everyone was excited to join the fun. Natalie and her husband, Ralph, and their daughter, Denise, were among the last to arrive. I welcomed them inside and took Denise to the backyard, where everyone was having a great time. I offered Natalie and Ralph drinks. I started talking to them. I was surprised to see her there. Natalie, I thought you were going to be on a big business trip. I asked. That's Linda and Grant's job. She clarified, I'm just helping out in the office. I see. I replied, is everything okay between you and Linda? Natalie asked. Why do you ask? I asked her why she was asking. You're not wearing your wedding ring, she said. I looked down at my finger. We returned the ring to her when she noticed it was missing. I said that Grant might have better luck keeping her faithful than I did. What does that mean? Natalie pressed. Come on, Natalie. I disagreed. Don't make it sound better than it is. I know that your brother has been seeing Linda for over 10 years. You two have been deceiving me all this time. John, please. Linda still cares about you. Natalie insisted. She's been lying to me for 12 years. I feel so appreciated right now, I replied sarcastically. What are your plans? Natalie asked. Do you think I'm going to kick her out? She and Grant will be served soon, I replied, glancing at my watch. Served? Natalie asked. Yes, Linda's getting the divorce papers and I'm taking Grant to court. You'll be served on Monday. I told her. Why are you suing me? I haven't done anything. Natalie protested. That's right. I fired back. You knew what they were up to for years. My investigator even thinks you may have helped. And you acted like my friend the whole time. You could have spoken up, but you didn't. How many times did you sit in my house, eating my food, knowing what Linda was doing with your brother? Did you enjoy making a fool of me? Now my family is torn apart, and you're partly responsible. Because of the three of you, I'll never trust another woman again. My children have lost their mother. I hope you're happy. I'm not happy, John. Natalie insisted. I'm sorry. Sorry is not enough, Natalie. I told her that you all had planned to destroy my family for 12 years. You didn't care how it hurt me or my children. And now you've succeeded. That's not what happened. Natalie defended herself. Really? Was it just business between you? I was the one who challenged her first. Yes, she admitted it was Grant's idea. Linda went along because she wanted the job, but she wasn't happy. Things changed over time. Even after she sold her company and said she was retiring, I questioned whether it was all her decision. Natalie said, I thought it would stop, but Linda kept going. Then she made a bad decision, I remarked. But you still played a role. I'm really sorry, John. Natalie apologized. We didn't mean to hurt you, but you did. I said in the worst way, it's best if you gather your family and leave my house, Natalie. She nodded and understood. I understand, John. She replied quietly before leaving. Oh, and Natalie, I called after her. She turned back to me. Don't ever come back. She wiped away a tear and went to find Denise and Ralph. Linda and Grant were lying naked in bed. Her phone buzzed, signaling a new message. She quickly checked to see if it was John, who was sending photos from Sophie's party. But it was a text from Natalie. He's onto us. Oh, she said. What is it? Grant asked. It's Natalie. John knows everything, Linda explained. I should clean up and go home. Is that a good idea? Grant agreed. Linda agreed. She put on her robe and got out of bed. The doorbell rang just then. Who could it be? Grant wondered who it could be as he looked out the window and saw a sedan and a moving truck in the driveway. He quickly got dressed in a robe and Linda followed. When they opened the door, they saw a man in a light jacket. What's up, Grant? He asked. Are you Grant Jacobs? The man asked. Yes, I am Grant, he replied. Is Linda Walker here? That's me, Linda said. She stepped forward. I'll need to see some ID, the man said. He reached for Grant's wallet, but Grant didn't take his driver's license out. The man checked it silently before handing him an envelope. You've been served, the man told him. Then he turned to Linda and asked for her identification. Linda found her wallet and gave it to him. After checking her driver's license, the man gave her another envelope. You've been served, he said, and inside is a restraining order. The two of you must stay at least 500 feet away from Mr. John Walker, his home, his workplace, and his children's school. If you don't comply, you could be arrested. He then said, have a good day. With that, he walked away, leaving Linda and Grant stunned as they exchanged glances. Excuse me, is Linda Walker here? asked another man in jeans and a t-shirt. Yes, that's me, Linda replied. The man handed her a paper bag with an envelope, leaving her confused. I was told to deliver this to you, ma'am. I have some other boxes, too, the man explained. Where should I put them? Grant and Linda looked at each other before Grant spoke. Just leave them in the front room for now, he said. Thank you, sir, the man said as he walked back to the truck. They watched as the men brought in more boxes and stacked them in the front room. Meanwhile, Linda opened the envelope. Inside was a man's wedding ring, a note, and her torn marriage license. Tears welled up in Linda's eyes as she read the note. Linda, I've always loved and supported you. I was shocked to find out that you've been having an affair with Grant Jacobs for the past 12 years. This is how you repay my love, by lying and cheating. You said it was just business, but now I see it was more than that. I hope it was worth it. You should see a lawyer as soon as possible. I've already divided our finances according to the divorce papers and changed the locks on the doors, since I've been the primary caretaker of the children since you began your affair with Grant. I'm asking for full custody, but I won't deny you visitation rights. Have your lawyer contact mine to arrange that. I've also sent all your things to Grant. If there's anything else you want from the house, have your lawyer talk to mine, and we'll work it out. I don't want to see you or hear your lies anymore. Please stay away from me and the children. If you try to contact me, I will enforce the restraining order. Don't make this divorce harder than it has to be. I don't want this to get ugly, especially for the kids. I have evidence from a private investigator who's been watching you for the last month, so don't push it. I haven't told the kids why we're getting divorced yet, but I will when the time is right. Their parents know some of what's going on, but not all of it. It's time to end this sham marriage and do the right thing. From now on, Linda, you mean nothing to me. Goodbye, John. Tears streamed down Linda's face as she opened the paper bag and found the ashes of her wedding dress, the same one she wore when she married John. She fell to the floor, crying. Grant held her and read the letter. That idiot, he said. I'm going to confront him about this. No, Grant, please don't. I don't want you to get in trouble because of me. This is my problem, she said. What did you get? Grant asked. He's suing me for causing him emotional distress. Grant said he wants $5 million. I'm going to talk to my lawyer and see what we can do about all this. I wonder if he's going after Natalie too. Linda said, let's find out. Grant said he was dialing his phone. If he is, we need to meet and figure out how to handle this mess. After the birthday party, I thanked everyone for coming. Looking around at the chaos, I knew cleaning up would keep me busy for a while. Sophie came over, crying. What's wrong, honey? I asked, taking her in my arms. I just wish Mom could have been here, she sniffled. I miss her. I felt the same way and I sighed. But she had other plans. Sophie looked sad. Are you and Mom splitting up? She asked, tears streaming down her cheeks. I didn't want to ruin her day, but I knew we had to talk. We'll talk about it later. Okay. Is it because of that guy? Grant asked. Why do you think that? I asked. I've heard Mom talking to him on the phone a lot. He shared. It was fascinating, but I decided to leave it there for now. Let's talk about it tomorrow. I made it clear that today is about Sophie's party. Right now, I need you to help me clean up. Is that clear? Sure, Dad. Aaron nodded. I hugged Sophie again and kissed her on the cheek. Everything will be okay, I told her, wiping away her tears. Daddy, I love you too, she whispered. Rhonda and George helped clean up. John, you're going to be okay, Rhonda said before they left. I'll be fine, I replied. Thanks for helping out. Anytime, she said. If you need anything, just let me know. I appreciate it. I acknowledged. Rhonda gave me a hug and George shook my hand. Take care, son, he said. After they left, I locked up and went upstairs, falling into bed almost immediately. The next day, I woke up and did my usual Sunday chores. I made breakfast for the three of us, and while I mowed the lawn, Aaron did the edging. When it was time for lunch, I went in, showered, and was surprised to find Sophie making sandwiches. We sat down at the table to eat, and then we cleared our plates. Sophie looked at me. Okay, Dad, she began. What's going on? I knew this conversation was going to happen, so I took the kids into the living room and we sat down. There's no easy way to say this, so I'll just come out and say it. I started. I'm breaking up with your mom. The kids didn't seem too shocked, which I didn't expect. I thought they would be more upset. Mom has been seeing this guy named Grant. Aaron spoke up. Yes, I confirmed it. I said it quietly. I had a feeling Aaron was going to add something, but it was a long time ago, wasn't it? Why do you say that? I asked him, just like she talks to him. He explained. I've heard her on the phone. She talks to him the same way she talks to you, Dad. It made sense. I hadn't noticed before, probably because I always trusted her and respected her privacy, so it never occurred to me to listen in on her conversations with Grant or anyone else. So how long has this been going on, Dad? Sophie asked. About 12 years, honey, I replied. Sophie gasped. That's almost since I was born, she realized. I replied. Sophie said quietly. Sorry, Dad, she added quickly, sensing that her language might not be appropriate. I understood her frustration and let it go. She asked, Can I stay with you? Absolutely, if that's what you want. I told her I wanted to stay too. Dad, Aaron joined in. You've always been there for us. Thank you. It means the world to me. I told them that I wanted to be the one to take care of them both. I said that I would always love you, and they hugged me tightly. It made me so happy to know that my children wanted to be with me. After a hug, we continued with the day. Although there was still sadness in the house, the following days passed without any problems. George and Rhonda kindly picked up the kids from school and stayed with them until I got home from work. I felt bad for inconveniencing them, but they were understanding and happy to help. Rhonda even made dinner, which made things easier for me. On Tuesday, my lawyer, Lisa, called. Linda had talked to her own lawyer and said she wanted to see the kids. I was worried that she might take the kids away, so I didn't want her to come over. I asked about the restraining order. I asked if you would agree that we could temporarily suspend it from 9 p.m. Friday night until 9 a.m. Sunday morning. Lisa suggested. It's tough, but it's important to appear reasonable. I understand. How about she visits her parents on Saturday? I said I could drop her off after school on Friday and pick her up on Saturday night or Sunday. I'll mention it and see what her lawyer says. Lisa agreed. Under no circumstances should Grant or Natalie be there. I emphasized that this was important. I also said that the kids might not want to see her. They're not very happy with her right now. I'll make sure they know. Lisa assured me. Did I forget to ask anything else? Yes. Your lawyer wants the full pie report. Lisa told me that I've already sent it to her. She should have it by Thursday. So she has a lawyer. I confirmed that Linda hired Beth Sawyer on Monday. Lisa told me. I'm surprised Beth took the case, given her strong feelings against people who cheat. I guess she took the case because she works at the same firm as Grant's lawyer. I'm going to talk to Beth and see how it goes. I'll keep you updated. The next day, Lisa got back to me. Linda and her lawyer agreed to my terms, but with one condition. I had to suspend the restraining order for 36 hours, from midnight on Saturday to noon on Sunday. This would only apply to Linda, not Grant or Natalie. They also agreed that Linda would visit the children at her parents' house and not take them anywhere else. If the children agreed, Linda could stay overnight. I agreed to avoid appearing unreasonable to the court. The kids weren't excited at first, but I convinced them to give it a try. George and Rhonda agreed to pick them up from school on Friday and bring them back on Sunday afternoon. I had my doubts, but I trusted them. George even suggested we go to a bar on Saturday night for some sports and beer. On Friday morning, I made sure the kids had everything they needed for the weekend. After hugs and kisses, I dropped them off at school, reminding them to call if Grant, Natalie, or their mother showed up. Once I knew they were safe inside, I left for work. The next night, George stopped by around 5:30, and we went to the Flat Stick Pub, a popular sports bar downtown. We had burgers and beers and talked while watching the game. While I was eating, George told me what had been happening. He told me that Linda had shown up at 9 this morning. He said it was tense at first, but things are settling down. The kids weren't excited to see her, and they made that clear. Surprisingly, she was honest. That was unexpected. I admitted that she claimed that she still loves you. I think she wants to reconcile, George said. Are you considering it? Not after 12 years of lies and deceit. I replied, I understand. By the way, did you really burn her wedding dress? That thing cost me over $2,000. When did you two get married? George asked. It felt like the right thing to do. I laughed at the time. Her lawyer must have given her an earful after going over the pie report. George mentioned that she was starting to see your side of things. Too little, too late, I replied. George nodded and took a sip of his beer. Suddenly, I felt something behind me. I turned just in time to feel a blow to my head, and I saw stars. As I hit the ground, I saw a foot swinging toward me. I was confused, but I dodged quickly. I heard Grant's angry voice. I'm going to finish you, idiot. I remembered my father's self-defense lessons. I used all my strength to punch him in the stomach. He screamed and stumbled backward, crashing into a nearby table. I took the chance to attack him. I was full of rage, caused by the destruction of my marriage and family. There was no finesse or fancy moves, just raw anger. I didn't know that Grant was already unconscious while I kept hitting him. George and another guy had to pull me off him, but I was still screaming incoherently. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed with a doctor examining me. My right hand was bandaged, and my left arm was in a cast. Ivy was dripping into my vein, and my head was throbbing painfully. The doctor said Ivy was going to be okay. He'll have a bad headache for a while, but there's no sign of a concussion. We'll give him something for the pain and let him rest before sending him home. Thanks, doctor. George joined in, but he sounded confused. I looked at him. He grinned back. You hear that? You're going to make it. I know you're in pain, but you should see the other guy. They say he's going to lose a couple of teeth and almost lost an eyeball. It looks like you broke a knuckle on his jaw. That was Grant, right? Yeah, I said. How long have I been here? Since last night. It's now 8:30 Sunday morning. George replied, Oh, and there are 2 big cops outside who want to talk to you. Are you ready for that? Might as well do it, I muttered. George motioned to the officers, and they entered the room. Mr. Walker, I'm Sergeant Smith, and this is Officer Jones. We responded to an incident at the Flatstick pub last night. How are you this morning, sir? Smith asked. I'm fine, but I got hit on the head, I said. Smith nodded and checked his notes. What happened last night? He asked. Not much. I was just having a burger and a beer with my father-in-law, and suddenly I was getting hit. I told him the guy threatened me, so I had to defend myself. Smith looked at his notes. That's what the witnesses said, and the security camera footage shows it. Do you know the guy who attacked you? Smith asked. Yes, his name is Grant Jacobs. I'm suing him, and he's involved in my divorce. I explained the divorce. The sergeant asked. Yes, I confirmed. Got it. He wrote it down in his pad. So, you want to press charges? Yes, I do. I also filed a restraining order against him. We'll look into it. It's probably best if you stay in town for a while in case we need to talk to you again. Smith advised me not to worry, Sergeant, and I assured him that I was not worried. He nodded with a smile before they left the room. After they left, Rhonda, Linda, and the kids came in. I asked, why is she here, and glared at Linda. My restraining order doesn't start until noon, Linda explained. I thought you were with your boyfriend, I said. She looked down, embarrassed. I wanted to see you first, she admitted. Besides, Natalie's with him, and he's still recovering. I nodded, and the children gathered around me. Sophie's eyes filled with tears. Are you going to be okay, Daddy? She asked. I'll be fine, I told her. I heard you scolded Grant a bit last night. Aaron joined in, smiling. That's what everyone's saying. I admitted that I looked at George, but it's nothing to brag about. You know what I mean? Got it, Dad. Aaron said. Are you all right, John? Linda asked. He's going to be fine, Sophie told her mother. We're taking good care of him. We, Aaron? Yes, we are, my son replied. Linda looked at our teenage children before speaking. If it's okay with you, I'd like to talk to your dad alone for a minute. She asked. They looked at her quickly before nodding. Sure, Sophie agreed. But we'll be right outside. Come on, Aaron, she urged, grabbing her brother. They left the room, followed by George and Rhonda. John, Linda started when we were alone. I'm so sorry about everything. As I told Natalie last Saturday, sorry doesn't even begin to cover it. I replied, you lied to me and cheated on me for 12 years. And you think saying sorry is going to make it all right? Was I a bad husband? All I did was love and support you. I don't understand it. You were ours, the best husband and father, she said sadly. But even that wasn't enough for you, was it? I replied, it's not like that, she insisted. Really? That's what it looks like from where I'm standing. I replied, you don't understand, she insisted. Then, please explain it to me, I said. At first, she said that it was just a way to keep her job. Grant made being close to me a condition of getting the job. That's illegal. Why didn't you come to me first? We could have done something. Oh, I see. You really wanted the job, so you thought sleeping with Grant was worth it, even if it hurt our family, I said. I basically made a deal with the devil, she admitted. So now you're blaming the devil. I scoffed. Give me a break. The truth is, you wanted the job so badly that you were willing to sleep with him to get it, even if it meant losing everything. Remember your old saying, it's just business. Tell me, Linda, how does breaking up our family fit into your bottom line? I'm curious why you continued even after you supposedly retired. It was my fault, she admitted. I guess I got to the point where I thought I could have it both ways. You have feelings for him, don't you? That's why you stayed with him. How long were you going to keep it up? Forever. Did you really think I'd never find out, or did you expect me to just accept it once I did and remember, I know more than you think? I reminded her that I had started to care about him. She admitted it was hard not to. After all this time, I thought you loved me enough to let me have this. I tried my best not to let it affect you. Are you serious? I explained that every moment you spent with him took away from us. You know about the idea of opportunity cost, which is the loss of potential gain from other options when one is chosen. You chose him over your family. Because of that, you lost your family. But I still love you, she insisted. I've always loved you, but you don't respect me anymore, I said. She looked stunned. No, she said. Yes, you did, I insisted. She said that wasn't true. She said I had said that I would always be with him and that I had said I would hurt her if she left him. Her eyes widened. You heard that? She gasped. Yes, and more. I confirmed. For example, you told Grant that you'd rather spend time with him than with your own daughter on her birthday. What kind of mother does that? What kind of message does that send to a teenager who is dealing with some personal stuff? Did you even think about her or about Aaron when you missed his birthday last year? She winced at that. I guess I just fail as a wife and mother, she muttered quietly. That's your opinion, not mine. But if it's true, I shrugged. Oh, and I'm sure your partner in crime will be relieved to know that I can't go after him for child support. I had DNA tests done, and it confirmed that the kids are mine. She stared at me, stunned. Wow, you actually thought I'd do this to you, she exclaimed. Well, you lied to me for 12 years. I said that you schemed and tricked me all that time to hide your affair. What else would I think? Oh, and I should also mention that I learned something about you both. You may not realize it, but Grant likes to have other women. I suspected you weren't his only conquest, but I wasn't sure. What's next? She asked. Sign the papers, Linda. End this sham marriage, then get help and get yourself sorted out for the child's sake, I urged. You'll probably have plenty of time. I bet Grant will be living in the state for a while. You're probably right. She agreed. Okay, I'll sign the papers. I'm sorry, John, for everything you've already said. I reminded her. I guess I did. Well, thanks for letting me spend time with the kids this weekend, she acknowledged. It was no problem. I replied, I know you doubt it, but I love you, and she confessed that she wished I could find a way to forgive her and give us another chance. You're right, I don't believe it. But thank you for saying it. I replied, I suppose part of me will always care for you, but it's not enough. I have to trust my partner. After what you did, I'm not sure I can trust anyone again. She nodded silently. tears streaming down her face. I heard her whisper goodbye, John. She gave me a kiss on the cheek before she left the room in tears. After that, George, Rhonda, and the kids came in. Are you all right? Son George asked. Yes, I'm fine, I answered. We talked about it. I think she finally understands how badly she messed up. Does that mean you and Mom are getting back together? Sophie asked. I shook my head and said, no, honey, you still love each other. She insisted that it takes more than love to make a marriage work. I told her that trust is just as important. And right now, I don't trust her. Someday you'll understand that yourself. After a medical checkup, I was released from the hospital. George took me home with the kids. Later that night, I received a frantic phone call from George and Linda. Natalie told them that Linda had taken too many sleeping pills with alcohol. Natalie found her unconscious in Grant's apartment when she went to get some of his things. There was a note on her bedside table that said, I'm sorry. Although she nearly died, Linda survived and spent a few days in the hospital. After seeing her, some mental health professionals decided that George and Rhonda should take care of her. Eventually, she moved back in with them. She signed the divorce papers without saying she didn't agree with anything. Lisa told me that I would be officially divorced in 90 days. Free. Yeah, right. Grant and Natalie's lawyer quickly settled with us for half of what I had originally asked for. That left me with about $3.5 million after legal fees. I set aside $1 million for each of my children's college funds and saved the rest. I started planning a Mediterranean cruise for them during their next summer vacation. Grant was convicted of several crimes, including aggravated assault, battery, and attempted termination. There was video evidence of these crimes. He was sentenced to 10 years in state prison, but could be eligible for parole in about 8.5 years. Whenever I visited George and Rhonda with the kids, I'd sometimes see Linda. We'd chat for a while, but I couldn't stop thinking about what she had done. She was seeing a counselor to figure out what she had done. She still hoped I would take her back. I was glad she was getting help, but it felt like it was too little, too late. Eventually, she slowly reconnected with her kids, which made me feel better. George mentioned that she spent most of her time writing for business blogs and wasn't interested in dating. She was disappointed to hear about the Mediterranean cruise I had planned with the kids, but she handled it gracefully, wishing us the best. The kids often sent her messages with photos from our travels. On the cruise, I met Nikki, a nice woman from British Columbia who was also on a trip after her divorce. She was a little younger than Linda, with blonde hair and a cheerful demeanor. I enjoyed her habit of ending sentences with A. She had 2 children a little younger than mine who were spending the summer with their grandparents in Idaho. We spent a lot of time together, swapping stories, and even sharing a bed a few times. Sophie teased me about having a girlfriend. We swapped contact information when the cruise ended and promised to keep in touch via email and Skype, though I'm not sure where that will lead. We chat online at least twice a week. Life at home has adjusted without Linda. My boss was flexible and allowed me to get the kids to and from school. I knew that Aaron would be old enough to drive soon and take over that responsibility. After we returned from the cruise, George gave me some disturbing news. They're putting Linda in a mental hospital. Why? I asked him why. Sophie sent her a picture of us having dinner with that Canadian lady from your cruise, he explained. Linda was upset. She killed herself. We found her in the bathtub. I'm shocked. I said I'm really sorry. I was truly sorry, but I also felt a sense of justice. Now Linda has seen how I felt when I found out about her and Grant. It was tough, but luckily, she made it through and survived. But the DOC says she needs constant care, George explained. Rhonda and I can't take care of her all the time, so they decided she needs to be in a nursing facility. How long do they think she'll be there? I asked. It's uncertain. It could be a few years, or it could be permanent, George replied. We're just taking it one day at a time. If you need anything, just let me know. I offered to help. Thank you, son. I appreciate it. George said. Nikki and I kept our long-distance relationship going, and I found myself getting closer to her with every conversation. I started to imagine a future with her. She felt sorry for Linda, especially for the effect it had on George, Rhonda, and the kids. When I shared my feelings with her during our last conversation, Nikki suggested that we could bring her kids to visit or have us come to her place, which is a 2-story log house built in the late 1800s on 50 acres of forest north of Kamloops. I'd never been that far north, so I thought it sounded interesting. Whether anything came of it is a whole other story.